the major themes that I worked with are like, you know, death and surveillance and torture and, you know, really light subjects. But I do bring a certain kind of humor to some of them, especially like the birdhouses that are shaped like coffins and are multicolored, or, you know, I'm always kind of bouncing one thing off of another. There's the stark reality of, you know, birds being, you know, dying off, whole species dying off, and that's part of the theme of the coffin-shaped birdhouses. But at the same time, there's this kind of odd lightness to them because of the color I use or something like that. The first sculpture that I made when I came to Napa was this piece that I call it Playhouse. There we go. As a child, I moved a lot. My father was in the US Navy, and I was born in Virginia, but it was like East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast. We lived in Taiwan for a couple of years, came back and spent a lot of time moving around in California and various places. And then, so with that background, I was thinking about my childhood and childhood memories and the idea that it's really gone, you know, and that all this travel and everything was kind of confusing to me as a kid. So the concept of that piece was to burn it. The piece Playhouse is this anomaly in my work. I have several pieces that are like that. There's another one that I call Contemplation Device, which is currently up at the Napa Valley Museum here, set up outside. But, you know, I really think that an artist can come up with an idea and make it, even if it doesn't fit in with all the other work that you've done. But I do believe that just because I designed it and made it, it somehow does fit together with everything else in its own way, even if it doesn't look like my other work. When I was a kid, I took one of these colorblind tests at a school science fair, and it blew my mind that I couldn't see certain colors. And I realized for years that I had had a problem with it, because people would say, how come the grass is brown, Steve? Because I couldn't see the difference between certain browns and certain greens, and it became very annoying. And then I realized I had to start reading the color that was written on the crayon, so that I knew that I was using the right color. In any case, I see blue perfectly, and blue is my favorite color. Now, I was doing the towers in black and white, basically grays, you know, charcoal. I really liked the quality that you couldn't really tell exactly how these things were made. They're kind of have this old, crinkly kind of look to them. I worked on that series for about a year, and then I started thinking beyond that. I realized that those observation towers and guard towers are, the new guard towers are drones. Surveillance thing starts coming out more and more, even with, you know, the drones and I wanted some kind of a sense of fear, or some sense of the power of these things and how they could be used and everything. But at the same time, you know, I'm a visual artist, I'm a visual person, and I wanted to make a picture that evokes something beyond itself. I find the image on the internet and I'll download it and bring it into Illustrator. And in Illustrator, I'll compose the image. And I can figure out how I'm going to tile the pages because I print it out full size. I tape the pages together and then I cover the back side of it with the charcoal or pastel. And then put that onto the paper that the drawing is going to be on and start manipulating through pounding, scraping, and drawing through that first layer of paper and doing the transfer. It's like a dance. So the fingerprints on these drones, I feel humanizes these objects that are really cold killers, if you will. They can fly up there for 24 hours at a time. They take, the guys that are operating them are someplace in Tampa, Florida or something, while they're observing people in Afghanistan or in Yemen where they're being used a lot. And it's that whole concept is really disturbing to me. But how do you make that come out in a drawing? It's not really that simple, But I really liked the idea that the drawings had this sense of first of all, like you were observing the scene through some kind of a window or a lens or something. And it also looked like a folded up old blueprint that had been unfolded, So they're kind of like these weird blueprints for the future. I did this other project called Speed Enforced by Drones, which was based on the signs that you see on the highways around here that say speed enforced by aircraft. It's not. So anyway, I always thought that those signs were really absurd, speed enforced by aircraft. And then it dawned on me, well, what if I put up some signs that said speed enforced by drones? And what kind of reaction would that get? So I went out and I measured those signs. I figured out how big I should make my signs. And I designed the kind of logo, the drone that's firing a Hellfire missile, and made it look just like a Caltrans sign. And I went out with a friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, and I installed 5 of them. And I wanted to get some on major highways. So I installed the signs, and it went remarkably easily because I had this white pickup truck and I wore a reflective vest and this orange helmet, and I looked like a worker, and my friend wore the same outfit. And so we went out there and we put the signs up, and nobody said anything. As a matter of fact, the first sign that I put up, I took the paper off. I'd covered it with paper so nobody would see what the sign said until I unveiled it. So as soon as I took the paper off, a highway patrol car drives by on Highway 12, and I'm thinking, oh crap. And he just drove by. He didn't say anything, didn't even notice it. So after that, I felt like, oh, well, this is easy. No one's gonna say anything. So we went and we did the other 4 signs. Nothing happened for a couple of days. I didn't hear anything from anyone. And then all of a sudden, so I put the signs up on a Monday, and on Thursday morning, my wife comes into my studio and says, Stephen, CBS wants to talk to you. So I was contacted about a month after I put the signs up by Officer Alvarado of the California Highway Patrol. And she wanted to interview me, and I was like, okay, fine. You want to come over to my house? Fine, come on over. She read the various statutes to me. Okay, so I understand what I did was illegal. And then I was recording this on my iPhone, and she motioned for me to turn it off, and I did. And she looked at me and she said, you know, I love the signs. And everybody at the CHP loved the signs. They thought it was hilarious. What is my passion about my art? That's a really good question, and I'm not sure I have a really clean answer for it, you know. I think it's like this interplay between the idea and the object, and I am trying to make these metaphorical kind of objects that have at least meaning for me. I hope the meaning comes through to the viewer, or that the viewer can, you know, build their own story around the object that they're looking at, that it'll evoke something in the viewer. I'm sort of resigned to being a rather obscure artist, to be honest with you. It's just, the art world never kind of caught on to my work, and if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But I do believe I've, you know, touched a few people.